So people always want that. You want the outcome you see, but you don't know what work it took to get in there, and you don't know how hard work is. Very often, most founders, first-time founders, have never done the hard work, or they've never done that level of hard work.
Welcome to the Fully Funded Show. Whether you're a capital raiser, deal sponsor, fund manager, or LP investor, we've got the insights you need for investing success. Join Sam Silverman each week for expert interviews, insider tips, and strategies to fully fund your ventures. Let's go!
James, what's going on?
How are you, Sam? Hello from Los Angeles.
I'm good. And I'm super excited to talk to you. I know we were talking before we hit record here, and I think what people will see in this episode too is you're very blunt, right? Which is a skill that is lost as of late in terms of people speaking what they're thinking, which I can appreciate. So yeah, if you want to give the listeners some of your background and what you're working on, it'd be awesome to hear from you.
Amazing. I'll try and do it succinctly. So I'm James Sinclair. I've built and sold a couple of startups across gaming, infrastructure, B2B SaaS. I've led innovation projects for some of the kind of the big guys, SAP, Google, Tata, Nike, and a couple of others. And now I kind of spend my time in the trenches with first-time founders, kind of helping them turn raw ideas into actual paying customers. My playbook's pretty simple. Build something people want that they'll pay for, do it fast, keep it lean, and have good people around you. And so each week I have a newsletter, Startup to Scale Up, that goes out to 150,000 founders with just frameworks, learnings in the trenches, battle-tested playbooks to help them move kind of a millimeter forward at a time, whatever that means.
So what do you typically see from the founder who doesn't start to the founder who starts and messes everything up to people who just take way too long to take action? Like, what are typical things you see from these folks that inhibit their growth in one of those areas?
So you've kind of broken out the three pillars of founder success. And success is relative, right? When you talk about founder success, it's not like founder unicorn. It's just founder success is in like doing, moderately more right than wrong. I mean, that's the game, right? I think the first thing you mentioned is founders who just get going, right? Speed, and speed doesn't mean being an idiot. The phrase I use is hurry slowly. Right, hurry slowly is the way I think about speed. Intelligent speed, cut intelligent corners, but the ability to create momentum, traction. No one else is going to do it for you. So, I'll have founders that email me and be like, I'm thinking about doing this thing, and then I'll email them back a couple of months later and be like, hey, how's it going? Well, I'm waiting to do a thing and thinking about money. I'm like, okay, well, probably just stay with what you're doing, because maybe you'd be a great number two, but you're certainly not a number one. And very often founders don't know where to start, right? Are they putting everything on the line? And you have to ask a really honest question of like, why are you doing this, right? Sure. Why do you think is it because you want the hoodie and you want to sit in a coffee shop because you think that's the life you want? Because you really want to swap your 40 hours with vacation time, retirement, and the ability to turn off on the weekends with 120 hours being unpaid for the next 3 years of your fucking life? So understanding the why tends to be important. And the second answer to your question, I'm sorry to drag on with this, is are you an entrepreneur in search of a problem, or do you know the problem you're looking to solve? And the most dangerous is an entrepreneur in search of a problem, because their bias to this is a great problem ends up maybe pushing them forward a little bit faster than it should. They don't quite have the same, they're impatient. They just want to build with everything in their core. I just want to do something and build something. And I love that, but also slow the fuck down, but hurry up.
Yeah, and that first category of person too, it's a great analogy, right? People have to go take action. So on my end, I used to run large sales teams in tech and big inside sales teams doing outbound prospecting. And what we would tell people is that if your outbound email is an A in writing, it's an F, right? B minus, C plus, and do way more volume, unless you're selling massive deals. Like done, not perfect, deliver something, get it out there, get feedback from the market. So with people like that, how do you help them think differently about what they're doing? And can that be solved for? Or is that just more so a personality trait that they should go be a general for a number one type person?
I think no one likes to be like, ooh, I'd be a great number two. right? No, everyone wants to be Kermit the Frog, right? Everyone wants to take the lead. Everyone wants that center stage. Everyone wants to be the founder. But there's just as many number twos that are co-founders. And it's okay. Sometimes you have to go through this experience to realize what you're great at. And it's kind of humbling or not humbling. And you get to learn. You know, I always tell people starting this journey, the way to think about it is, look, I want you to succeed. I want you to be epic. I want all of these amazing things for you. I'm in your corner. But also, this is going to be the greatest education you've ever had.
Sure.
You know, I often tell people, you know, very early stage people, you know, there's two directions. People that come straight out of college and they want to go straight into startup. And sometimes that ignorance, that naivety, those ideas are probably exactly what you want. But other times you tell people, you know, go get a job. Just go get a job to understand how the world works, what it means to be accountable, what it means to have hard conversations, what it means to talk about money, what it means to do all of these things that instinctively as a founder, we're awful at. We're product people. We're vision people. We can change the world. How much does it cost? Well, what are you thinking? I don't know. Let's have a conversation, right? So I think you're exactly right that you've got to get out. So always, to all founders, get in traffic. Get in traffic. Doesn't matter whether it's with a solution, without a solution. Just talk to people relentlessly about it. Get out of this kind of fake stealth mode. No one wants to copy your idea. And even if they did copy your idea, it wouldn't be the same idea anyway. But my number one start with people is just get out there and talk to people and more talk to people. And I think my primary reason of that is you want to iterate this idea, whatever it is, in your head 1 billion times, because the minute you write code, now you're paying someone to iterate. And I think so many founders start building so quickly because in their heart, they want to build a product. That's what they're thinking. I'm going to build a product. I want to ship code. I want to get it out to market. But don't build a product. Build a solution to a problem that has a line of people around the block that want to buy it. And understanding this difference between building a product and building a solution is a really kind of interesting way that I think about this.
Yeah, and you're right too. Like if you're a founder looking to go build a product or an offering and you can't go sell one of those things pre-sale before you build anything, you're likely in the wrong field. Unless, I think there is a caveat. Sure. Right? Like unless you have the means and backing to go take your time in a massive way, you've already had some big wins. But if you are a first-time founder, maybe you're an employee looking to go break free, or unless you've really had that like big pop. Like for example, I worked at a big tech company, $1 billion valuation years ago, and the technical founder took time off after a period of time to build stuff. Right? He can go do that. He has that credibility and the compensation and the means to survive to go do it. Unless you're in that bucket, like done, not perfect, get something out, get feedback, and know too if this is even worth your time and diving deeper into it.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. There's the type of people whose gut instinct is instinctively right? They've proven it to be right. And they have the capability, the funding, the time, the lifestyle that says, actually, I'm going to build the right product. I'm not building an MVP. Fuck that. I'm going to build something that's fantastic and brilliant, and I'm going to bring it to market, and I'm going to be okay because when I do, I've got an army of supporters. And I think the point that you're making is, you know, I forget who said it, but he or she is owed the credit, which is first-time founders obsess about product, second-time founders obsess about distribution. And that's the key, especially now where the barriers to build are so low, where you can use AI. And I'm not saying AI builders are there or not there, but the fact is you can build a prototype or a smoke test or a website very, very quickly. So if coding becomes a commodity to a certain extent, then what is your market? What do you have? Distribution. So I'm always the fighter of go find people that by the time you launch, if you don't have customers waiting to buy this thing, you're going to spend all of this money building a product and then be like, we're live on Product Hunt and be shocked that no one gives a fuck.
Yeah. And one point you made too was how comfortable people are talking about money. We used to use examinations or personality assessments when we were hiring in sales. We've hired hundreds and hundreds of people. And people who are selling larger scale deals, right? Think things that have, you know, at least 1 comma, likely 2, right? In terms of the transaction size. If you're not comfortable talking about money, you're not going to be able to sell meaningful deals. And you're going to go have that stickiness in your mind of how to get things out there. So I think that's a huge piece of it. Or it's find someone as well who complements that skill set for you. Like I think in any kind of company or partnership or relationship, someone has to be the push person. Someone has to be the slow down and, you know, reflect person, right? You need that dynamic there in that structure.
I think that's entirely a really good point. Like it's either you've got to be able to look at a customer and say a price And I think the marking of like, are you good about talking about money is the ability to say a price and then shut the fuck up. Right? All of us, myself included, when I did one of my first deals, I didn't want to talk about money because I was so nervous of losing it. I was so nervous of losing the deal. I didn't want to talk about money because what if they fell off their chair, right? And that was the end of the deal. But the reality, if it's not a deal, it's not a deal. Yeah. And so one of the early things you kind of have to learn is if it's not a deal, it's not a fucking deal. So get it off your fucking plate anyway. And at some point as a founder, you just have to have the guts to do what you've wanted to do since the moment that company entered your pipeline, which is just ask them the question. Do you think your company is going to buy this software? And I don't profess myself as a sales expert, right? I'm really the early stage, but I do know that being able to ask that question and having the right to ask that question is a really important milestone. Have you done enough for this prospect where you can look at them in the eyes and be like, hey, Sam, it's been a good year. We've worked together. I think we've shown how our product can align to the objectives. Do you think this is something that's going to close? Right? Yeah. And when? And I'm not sure, and I'm sure there's a million salespeople that will tell me there's a better way of doing it, but it's more the function of asking the question. And the amount of founders that don't do that, and the amount of founders that the first time their customers find the price is in like a written proposal that's 98 pages long and are surprised when they get ghosted because their customer fell off their chair or surprised. So I think a lot of that, probably you have that expertise in training teams of how to not surprise your customer, how to lead them into it, how to be outcomes driven. And I think that's a really important founder skill because everyone wants to talk about my solution does a thing with a thing and a thing. And actually what you need to pivot to is how does it help you? How does it solve your pain? How am I going to make your life better? And if you can move it that way, kind of, it's a big pivot for a founder to make. Sorry, that was a long run-on sentence.
No, you're good. And, it's funny, like in the sales process too, telling someone, hey, if this isn't for you, tell me, right? And giving them that right to tell you no, or hey, we go with a competitor, or we chose to do nothing. I think in software right now, you're seeing your biggest competition is not a competitor, it's do nothing. Right? Because you're seeing budgets that are more scrutinized. You're seeing approvals jump up the ladder to a CFO, maybe that were in a finance manager before, right? So the right to tell someone no, like, hey, not for me for whatever reason, and get feedback from that person is more valuable than holding this pipeline of artificial deals that aren't going to actually close. I think salespeople, founders in the same way too, is we have all this pipeline, so you're still selling the dream, but then actually make it come home. And when you move it off your plate, you acknowledge that, hey, this isn't a deal anymore. I think people at times hold on to that for way, way too long. So getting really comfortable saying, hey, if we get to this place, just know you have the right to tell me this isn't a fit. It's actually better for me to then go help customers that, actually are better fits for what we're doing. And you can be transparent then too, saying, hey, this is how I get paid as a salesperson, right? So help me help my family is if this isn't a deal for me, let me go focus somewhere else that actually is.
It's not a secret. It's not a secret that we charge money here. It's not a secret that if I sell the software, I get paid. It's not a secret that if I sell the software to you with a great logo, my valuation goes up. I think, your point around founders is, when you've only got 3 deals in the column, losing one is monumental. Sure. Even if it's not a deal, because you've told people, oh, X companies in my pipeline. And then to be like, oh, well, I spoke to the guy and it turns out they were just exploring, just looking, or I failed to deliver on whatever it was. But I think you're entirely right. And it doesn't actually matter whether the deal converts or not. It's about you as a founder. You have about a year from when you start to turn into a CEO. You're staying a founder, but more of a CEO in terms of a leader and capable of articulating the vision and raising money, right? For the first year, everyone knows fuck all about literally everything. You're probably, in fact, the worst CEO potentially on the planet, right? But everyone's okay with that because no one knows your passion, your view, your product like you do. And so you get to live off that. After about a year, right now you're moving into having to kind of think about what growth might look like and to be more articulate and to lead a team and one-on-ones or whatever else you do as a leader. And so in that first year, it's that opportunity to just work out exactly who you are. And I think your point is really good. If you just can't not be behind your computer screen and get in front of a customer and shake their hand and talk to them around a table, then you need a partner that can do that for you. Right? It's not to say that you need a wolf next to you. You just need someone who's really comfortable talking about it because it's not a shock. Your software costs money. And I think these are the cool things that founders get to go through on this kind of experience of being a first-time founder, all these firsts. And the quicker you can do the first, the quicker you can do the second.
And for you, I know you work with founders on your end to help them solve a lot of these things. Are there certain assessments that you use or certain personality tests that you believe in, right? Because I think the best way for someone to go figure this out is be brutally honest with themselves about what things they're good at, what things they are absolutely horrible at, and what things they should go outsource, right? And it's figuring out what makes sense there. So on your end, like, how do you go help founders figure that out? And there are any types of tests or software or assessments that you use to give them that edge, right? Help them understand these are things you should do. These are things, please stay as far away from as possible if you want to survive. And hey, you know what? In total, go get a freaking job.
Yeah, I don't run functional tests. I mean, I like the Briggs-Myers. I like some of these other kind of functional tests to define grit, resilience, kind of capability. What do you do when
Sure.
What do you do with it? When we've all been in it, maybe you haven't, but when, you are about to hit payroll and you don't have the money in your bank account, right? When you are like, oh my God, I've been working 4.5 years. We've got customers and the entire company is about to collapse. What happens in that moment? What do you do in that moment? And so trying to measure for that is important. I think with early stage founders, it's trying to help them understand this is their journey and it's not my journey. I don't have a framework of like, follow these 700 things and you're going to make $1 billion. Instead, it's your journey. Where are you at? Where are the areas you need to work on? And what type of founder are you? And how do you like to receive information, right? Are you visual? Are you written? Are you technical, right? What is the way you want to do it? And really what you're trying to get, or what I try and do with a founder is, and I think we talked about this just before, is I'm just asking you reasonable questions about your company. And when you can't answer them, that's a gap that says, okay, no problem. How do we think about it? And so we're trying to kind of instill these core skills of critical thinking, analysis, speed, hurry slowly, doing the right thing, doing more right things than wrong things. And so very often in the beginning, I'm really fighting for them not to build anything. I mean, my biggest fight is fighting them to not go to Upwork, hire an engineer, and just piss away their cash. And because everyone has done it, or everyone knows a friend that went to Upwork, built something. By the time they finished building it, they were like, I built the wrong thing, but now I know what to build, but I have no money, right? It's to your point, you said it right at the beginning, that by the time you go live, there should be a customer just with a credit card or whatever it is, as close to ready to buy as humanly possible, because otherwise you're not building it for someone. Who are you building it for? And people are very, I had a guy I spoke to the other day. He's like, it's who are you selling to? Well, people that build SaaS. I was like, that's like saying, where do you want to eat? And me saying a restaurant, right? Like how do we niche down? And a lot of it is a little humbling as well, right? And I think you probably talk about this, which is, I need your smallest niche that's so embarrassingly small you don't want to talk about it in public. When people say, who are you serving? And you're like, this tiny little niche that's the size of a pinhead. You don't want to say that. You want to say, I'm building a thing for the whole market and everyone's going to love it. And I'm into it. Shut the fuck up. Just build it for 1, 10, 15 people religiously and make it work. And again, shut the fuck up and just do the work. And it's really hard, right? Because you're so excited to talk about stuff.
Yeah, dude, you nailed it. Like, people want to go build things that can do 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different things. Do one thing, do it very well, then see what adjacent verticals you can go target, then go see what adjacent products or solutions you can go build around that solution. And you can go see, do you go build, do you go buy, do you go affiliate for those items?
Yeah.
What I want to pivot to as well is the people who maybe aren't the number ones who can go build a company. Do you see a big correlation to those people having the competency to go buy companies, right? Who are more operational focused versus the one who can go drive it forward from zero? You think a lot of people right now, they look at it as, do we go, like, people who are looking to go leave their jobs, do their own thing in some way, right? You have a few different avenues to get there. You can go build something, you can go buy something, whether it be real estate, business, etc., right? And kind of people fall into 2 different categories, or the third of like, please keep your job for everyone's sake, right? So
there's easier ways for me to waste your money, right? But look, some people want the journey, and I understand that. It's a really fair expectation to people they think they're entrepreneurial, they might be, but application of what hard things actually means is very different, right? I think I can work hard is very different when you've never actually worked that hard, when you've never worked 120 hours for yourself, where no one is responding to you, everyone is ghosting to you, your engineer's building everything with bugs, your designs are wrong, like everything's awful. Like, most people have never experienced what that feels like in their life. And you can't turn to your husband or your wife or your significant other because they have no fucking clue, right? They've never felt what you're going through. So they're supportive. My wife is the most supportive person on earth, but will never feel that visceral pain that I have when I'm like, oh my God, like, we lost that deal, that customer churned, I didn't get that thing, we didn't raise the money, the term sheet didn't come out, I can't make payroll, oh fuck, right? So when you get founders and you're like, look, you're just not an operator. I've never said that. Instead, what I've tried to do is look for a co-founder, obviously, right? Because look, if it's a founder who's coming in with an idea, but they're not a great executor, but the idea is valid and the idea is massive, it doesn't matter if they can't execute. It could be the greatest idea on earth. So who can we align you with that's going to say, I'm an operator, I know how to take this and run?
How do you handle the ego piece of that, right? Because a lot of founders, I'm sure you can give your point of view on as well, at times it comes with an ego, right? And some people who may fit that type of person may not want to go say, hey, I'm okay giving up likely not a huge salary because they probably can't afford it. So in turn, meaningful equity stake for someone taking a risk on what they're doing. How do you handle those conversations for people as to, hey, you're not the right fit for scaling this yourself? Awesome idea. If it's just you're not gonna get it done. But if you bring someone else in, your pie will grow, your piece will shrink.
Right. So again, it's kind of like, look, and I sometimes ask this, I'm like, does it matter what I say? Are you going to do this anyway? And that's probably one of the most important questions I ask, whether the idea, the idea is a top hit idea of something. And I'm like, look, here's all my concerns with this idea. It doesn't mean it's not going to work. It just means every piece of data suggests that you're going through an uphill battle, right? I'm not an oracle. What I can tell you is I don't like it because of all of these negative data points against it, right? And so I think you're in trouble. But the question I'm going to ask is, are you going to do it anyway? And very often the answer is yes. Okay, so how are we going to do it that mitigates as much of the risk as humanly possible so it's going to prove to you either you're on the right track or on the wrong track really fucking quickly, right? How do we do this? How do we race forward at the minimal expense to get the answer? Because you're not hearing what I'm saying or you disagree, which is fair. You're allowed to disagree. Part of being a founder is having this contrarian, diverse, ego-driven, arrogance-driven view that sometimes other people can't see it. I mean, the great story about Airbnb that Reid Hoffman walked into Greylock board meeting and said, I want to invest in Airbnb. And everyone at the table, and this was his first deal after coming out of LinkedIn, everyone at the table was like, you're fucking insane. No one is staying at other people's houses. What happens if people kill each other? They're doing 19 transactions a week. What the fuck are you thinking? And Reid was like, cool, I'm going to do it anyway. And he's a partner, so he had the right. So they were like, if you want to do it, because everyone needs one VC deal that fails. So maybe this is it. Can you imagine being told that about the deal you get brought into the board meeting? You should do it because we need a failure anyway. And then 6 months later, the partner walked back in to Reid and said, what did you see that I didn't see? And so that's the point. Not everyone sees everything the same way. And so I think part of arrogance, to your point, Sam, is also my own. Right? Making sure that I am not the arbiter of what is right and what is wrong and what works and what doesn't. What I can just give you is the market and the base data and the perspective that helps you base your opinions on and what I think that risk profile looks like. And the question then becomes, do you accept that risk? If you accept that risk, great. So this might just be the greatest MBA program you've ever been on, because it's not going to end up with something, or I could be wrong. But either way, I'm still your greatest ally. I'm not rooting for you to say, fuck you, James, I'm going to do it anyway. And I'm going to be like, okay, no, I want you to succeed either way. So I think to your point of founders, it's helping them find their journey, their way. And when they have ego's okay, right? You need a little bit. Like, you've got to be delusional as fuck to think you can build a startup. Like, delusional to think you can have an idea, bring it to market. Someone you don't know is going to pay for this fucking thing. Like, I think the odds rounded to the nearest whole number is 0% chance of success. So if you are default going to fail, delusional. And I think that's what binds us all, right? I'm looking at you, Sam, you're looking at me, and we're just all just moderately delusional.
Yeah, and it depends how delusional people are too. Like, there are people who just think so much bigger than everyone else too, right? Like, you always see these memes or posts on it too, like, don't go be jealous of Elon, right? Because no one thinks like that guy. No one wants to go live that way. No one wants to do what he does. No one wants to go think that way. And you're right. Like, people who have these insane ideas, you have to be a little bit off to go think you can go carry it out. And I do want to go pivot back as well. When you look at do you see a lot of these founders as well be people who could go also buy companies, right? Like, do you see a certain profile of people who make more sense to go buy, right? Because I think a lot of our audience listening to this, they're, mid six figure W-2 employees who have great jobs, right? They're in tech sales, they're a doctor, they're a lawyer, they're doing something they've been successful in. And for them, they're looking at it as, hey, building is a lot of risk, and my baseline of making $200 to $500, $800,000 a year is pretty high. So your risk profile may go down. So if you look at it as going that 0% chance to a higher route of actually buying something stabilized, like, what do you see for people who have success in doing stuff like that?
Yeah, 100%. And my prior day job was specifically in PE and operations, and thinking about that. So I love that and I hate it for two reasons. Number one is you talk about doctors and lawyers and dentists. The only thing that's in common between a doctor and a doctor's office is the word doctor. Just because you're a good doctor, it doesn't make you a good operator of a doctor's office. In fact, it probably makes you fucking worse, right? The number of clinics or offices I've walked into of service professionals where their process, their experience is just phenomenally awful is incredible. But we know, when you talk about the early angels, right, for startups, the early angels are friends, families, and fools. And without disrespecting anyone, I mean, most of my customers are in the medical space, right, academic or medical space, because they're ready to do their next thing. But they often come into the fools because a doctor, a dentist, they're ready to do their next. They've got the income, they've got the capability, they've got the cash flow. So actually what they invest in is they like you, the founder, and they think you're going to make it. And so fools is an unfair word because I raised my first round from the triple F and doctors and so forth. But I think that when they're thinking about their next play, they're often thinking about, their legacy impact. They're thinking about passive income. They're thinking about those secondaries. I love it if they're willing to be an operator, but very often their credentials and their experience hasn't given them the experience to be a great operator, right? They're not Six Sigma. They're not looking for operational efficiency. They're not doing supply chain optimization. They're not doing the things which is, the money is in the pennies. And that's always my issue when people are thinking about, acquiring an existing company is A, are you willing to do the work? And B, you just have no idea how hard the person who's selling it actually worked. I mean, to your point, everyone wants the output of Elon without doing the work. I want the 400 billion, but I don't want to live like in a desk at Tesla. I want to live in my mansion.
You don't want to have your calendar blocked by 5-minute blocks?
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, so people always want that. You want the outcome you see, but you don't know what work it took to get in there, and you don't know how hard work is. Very often, most founders, first-time founders, have never done the hard work, or they've never done that level of hard work. It's just insane. I mean, you can speak to it. I mean, you talk about your GP. I imagine not everyone is a yes, right? Not everything is good news. It's just hard work. I mean, unless you're about to tell me that rainbows and unicorns, right? There's rejections like no other that you get in no other business. If you work for SAP doing sales and someone rejects you, sure, you miss your quota, sure, you don't get commission, but there's another one. There's always more. When it's your business, that might be the last one, or the last one for now until you find another one.
Yeah, no, really good point. And let's pivot one more time as well. I want to dive into the newsletter, right? Newsletters are a big rage right now. People monetize them in massive ways, both in terms of directly, but also indirectly in terms of whether it be for client acquisition, whether it be for brands, promotional, affiliate type deals. Like, how did you go about building your newsletter, right? And what do you focus on in terms of using that as a lead magnet, lead stream, right, for you and your business?
So I think I'm going to start with the end. That one thing the newsletter does or doesn't do for you is it earns the trust of the user. Right? Yeah. At some point, you get the right to ask them for something. So there's a couple of ways to look at newsletters: flywheels into everything else, flywheels onto affiliate sponsorship, those things. And, I fell into it. I started doing some consultancy for early stage startups, and I was offering a free intro call. I'll speak to anyone all day. And I was doing hundreds a week. And most of them, I was like, you're amazing. Let me help you. We would help each other. You're not the right fit for me. You don't have the money for me. You're too early for me. Whatever great reason, right? We're not a fit. But I wish you luck, and I want to support you, and I want to stay in your life in somehow, because I do want you to be successful. I genuinely do. And so I was like, well, I'm going to start writing a note to these people. And so I started this newsletter. And this was about 18 months ago. And I'm on ConvertKit, which I love, that kind of helps it out. And then it just started growing. And then 3 months in, I got a sponsor. I got HubSpot, who said, would like to pay you money to be in a newsletter you're already writing, that even without us, you're going to write. And I was like, well, this sounds fantastic. I should probably take this seriously. Then I had some incredible sales teams reach out of people who do this for some of the other big brands, big newsletters. And I was like, this is a real thing. And I've been very fortunate to see it grow and grow. But, as you grow, you basically have to spend more to acquire your users. You've got to spend more because every week there's a level of users that will drop off. Like, it's now like this massive machine. But I will tell you that when I ask for something, which is very, very rare, I almost always get a decent return or a fair return. Like, I just ask people to leave a review. Like, hey, if this newsletter has been of value to you, I would love you to leave me a sentence or two, because I want to have testimonials on the website, because it's been 18 months. It's time to have, a website that doesn't look awful. And like a couple of thousand people did it. And so that's when I think of newsletter, I think about this capability to earn trust. But I think, to your point, every company should have a newsletter. Whatever that means. It doesn't mean it has to be weekly. It doesn't mean, but it should be value driven, right? Sure, you can ask for stuff if you've earned the right, but just value driven. And if you can do that and deliver that value, people will rely on it. People will read it, and it's a great humbling experience.
Sure.
Right. I did a newsletter around smoke testing. Like, how do you smoke test your product? And I thought my subject line, "Stop smoking," was the cleverest subject line I've ever. It turns out Google blocked it, and 60% of my audience went into junk, and it was the worst subject line I've ever done. So you get all of these humbling experiences, but it does turn into revenue opportunities. I have picked up clients from it. But more about it, I picked up clients who've been reading my newsletter for months and agree with my position and how I communicate. But I love it. And I tell all of my people, that anyone that subscribes to me, to add me to their newsletter, because I'll read theirs and I'll provide my view. And as you might be able to tell, Sam, I waffle a lot, right? And so the newsletter, not verbally, obviously, has helped me write less words, make a better point.
Yeah. And it's a great point too. Like, some content people create really helps. Hey, I now found James. Now let me go see how he speaks, right? So you get on some conversations, I'm sure. People follow you for 18 months. They feel like they know you, right? Where that builds a relationship really quickly, of getting them from a place of trust. It also helps them opt in or opt out. They may say, hey, I've listened to this guy for 4 months. He sucks. No problem, right. Opt out. And in turn, that may save you or your team a conversation in the future, right? It also helps kind of weed people out and into your cycle. How do you structure your newsletter, right? In terms of how long are they? What do you put into it? What have you seen get good engagement?
Yeah, I think, by the way, your most important point you just said there is how you started this deselector. If I'm not for you, I'm not for you. I'd rather know about it early, right? I'd rather not waste any time. And this ability to break down shoulders of the people that you do speak to, where you feel like you've had a relationship because they at least know your thinking, is critical. So I think, to me, that was something you mentioned about how you did your training and your sales of your SDRs, your BDRs, was about just deselect. If they're not part of the funnel, they shouldn't be part of the funnel. Get them out as quick as fucking possible, so you can focus on the immediate, or put them in your long tail funnel.
And also for them too, of like, go find a better job, go find a better career doing something else more quickly, right? Like, don't waste time in doing so. I think the newsletter content like helps people give a point of view of you. Like, you hear a name, right? Like, think of a big name person that everyone would know. You say that name, you have a reaction, positive, negative, right? As long as people are never neutral, right? They're like, James, no one buys, no one engages, no one cares, right? But if you're like, James, you know what? That guy's horrible. Or James, like, really, really feel strongly about what you're doing. Those are people who can be customers, supporters, right, of you in the long term too.
Yeah, customers for life as well. They know what they're getting into. I think you're 100% right. And I kind of tell people occasionally in my newsletter that either you're going to love how I think, my frameworks, how I communicate, how I swear, how I'm aggressive, I'm visceral. The one thing, because I doubt I'm having to raise money ever again in my life. But if I do raise money, I also know that I do know where I'm going to raise it from, because I know the people who are going to give it to me. So I'm under no obligation to stand and be like, well, I have to watch this, or I have to watch what I say, or watch what I think. I mean, there's a huge freedom that's been enabled with no concern for, having to walk back into someone and be like, sorry, I said that thing, I didn't really mean it.
Well, it's also just ties to like a personal piece of it, right? When you got into a certain place, and similar to the founder who may have had an exit already, or the person who has enough cash flow where they're stable and have the optionality, right? When you can go be your true, authentic self. Like I always say this too, like the world's a better place when people work on things they're passionate about in a way that is authentic to them. And when you have that stability of, I'm set in terms of not necessarily fully financially, but I can live in a way that I'm comfortable and I feel very sustainable in doing so. You can go take bigger risks and you can go be yourself and not worry about, I have to go apologize to someone, as long as you're not doing anything, unethical or offensive in certain ways, but like be yourself and who you are and how you operate. And I think you'll like that work a lot more overall.
100%. I remember I had a VC who was like, "You're so excited about everything." I'm like, I can't work out if that's you're unhappy about that. He's like, I just want to hear that. I was like, I'm in the wrong room, right? But to your point, I mean, that's I wrote about this a few months ago. Ikigai, I think it's called, which is find something you love, something you're good at, something the market will pay for, and something that does good in the world. And if you can find those 4 things and put them in a Venn diagram of some sort, and you can do roughly that, surely you're going to have a good life. Yeah, I think it was called Ikigai. If it's not, please edit this out and put in exactly what it's called. But yeah, I mean, so, it's also the confidence of I've got a stack of receipts that have said what I've done, right? So I feel confident in my journey. I feel confident in my story. I feel confident in how I communicate, but I also know what I fucking hate. What I fucking hate is I go on Instagram and I see these ads for like, are you raising $25 million? We can get you 10 meetings for a small fee of 50 grand. And it's like, you predatory fuck, right? Like, I'm not interested in that. I don't need anything from anyone who reads my newsletter. I need nothing, right? Even when I do consults, I tell people there's no economic relationship. I won't do business with you for weeks. I want to date you. I want to play. I want to party. I want to talk. I want to argue because I want to come to the call and be excited, right? I want to come to the call and be like, cool, I'm speaking to Sam. I'm excited to be here. I want to be here, as opposed to I've got 56 minutes left, until I can get the fuck off this call.
But you also earn that right there too from previous success. People who are making that pivot, right? If you kind of look at your calendar, and I can speak to it as well. So on my end, right, we've been in the real estate private equity space for a while now. And when you're first going out and raising money for deals you're working, you have to say yes to every person that'll say yes to you, right? You have to say please, and then hopefully they say yes. Eventually you can start saying no to people that don't align with what you're doing, that you feel like maybe problem investors that don't have the same mission, vision, and values as yourself. But you earn that right over time to do so. So I think on your end, you're at that place now where you can go say no. Some people, when they're first starting out, like if you're listening to this and you're first starting out, you don't have that right of doing it unless you have a bankroll of something. Yeah. Like if you have a bankroll or like you're good.
And even if you have a bankroll, especially if you have a bankroll, one of the things about a bankroll is it gives you this freedom to think that you don't have to do the hard work. If you have a bankroll, I expect you to go into the coal mine. More so, right? Get in there, because there's nothing like bankroll to make you a little bit lazy. But I think you're 100% right. I always tell people, that everyone starts at zero. Everyone. And there's always this story of the guy from Pinterest. When Pinterest started, the guy, and I read this, I hope it's true. If not, what else? It should be true, that he was going coffee shop to coffee shop in San Francisco, tapping people and being like, hey, can you try my new software? Can you imagine the founder of this billion-dollar company called Pinterest was going coffee shop to coffee shop, tapping fucking people on the shoulder and being like, hey, I built a thing. Can you try it? And that should let every founder know that's exactly where you have to start. I've done it. When I first closed Lufthansa, the guy was like, hey, I was like, hey, I'm already in, I forget, they're right next to the airport. I'm already here. If you want to meet, I'd love to have a meeting. And the guy was like, that's great. Tomorrow sounds fab. And I was in LA. I fucking raced, got on a plane, changed in the parking lot next to the airport, went into the meeting, did the deal. The guy said, I think so. And as we're walking out, he's like, hey, just quick question. I saw you changing in the parking lot. And I was like, sorry about that. He's like, did you come? I was like, yes. He's like, well, I'm going to do business with you because I think you're going to bleed for me. I think you're going to fight for me. If you're willing to get on a plane to earn my business and change in the parking lot next to an airport of our offices, you know what? I think you're going to work out how to build this fucking product. Right. And so everyone starts at zero. Everyone has no customers, no money, no one who gives a shit, no product, no nothing. And when you realize that, exactly to your point, right? The point I'm at, the point you're at is just a progression from zero. That's all it is.
Yeah. And it's also fun too. Like I'm sure you've been there as well. You've sold companies, you've had exits. I'm sure you've had liquidity events too, where you get more clarity and you almost want to go back to that grind of starting over. Right. I think some people have that, some people don't, where doing things that you're really bad at, some people absolutely hate it. Right. Like I have this conversation with friends really frequently where I'll go start over on projects and like, I want to be really bad at something again. and go figure out how to go make it work, and then go figure out how to go hire myself out of doing that ever again as well. But also go figure that thing out. Like, it's really fun in doing it. You need to figure out too if that's right for you, right? In terms of kind of starting over, trying new things. I have some friends who are in one industry and they'll be in that industry for their whole life, and they'll be very, very, very affluent people longer term. And I like the building and starting over and creativity side of things, and then hopefully hiring myself out and things don't break, right? Like, it depends on kind of who you are as a person in terms of like that structure as well.
I think you're 100% right. I mean, it kind of goes around to the last point we were making, which is you're going to read my stuff, your stuff, our stuff, this podcast, and you're going to love it. You're going to enjoy it. You're going to learn something. You're going to be like, I like these guys. I can deal with these guys. I would love to run into these guys at an airport. These are my guys. Or you're going to hate us so much that it's going to force clarity in what you do want. So either way you win. Either way you win when you think about kind of listening to someone who believe they've earned the right. I believe I've earned the right to have some sort of a place, but I'm not on a podium. Like my first email, if you hire me, there's no teacher relationship. We're peers. If I'm lucky, I'm going to learn more from you. And people are always so shocked. Well, of course I'm going to learn more from you. You're an academic, you're doing pathogen testing on dairy and what, you don't think I'm going to learn more from you than you're going to learn from me? I can't wait for this experience. And when you look at it from a peer level, and when you look at it from either you're going to love it and enjoy it and want to do it, or you're going to hate it so much you're going to form your own opinion, either way you're winning. And so I think, to your point, always be learning is just such a cool way of thinking about going forward. And it's so much easier to delegate something where you understand the process, what it takes, the blockers, right? Because it allows you to actually measure kind of the output a little bit better. But exactly the same as you. I love just getting in and getting dirty. And I know, when I'm excited about something, I don't have a procrastination problem. I don't have any. I have a procrastination problem against the shit I don't want to do. The fucking TikToks. That's what I have a procrastination problem with. Like, I just have no interest in recording a 60-second TikTok of any kind whatsoever.
Yeah. I mean, you made a great point too. When you look at, like, I used to always think about the SDR role that way, where either it's great to break into sales and you're like, okay, I can get in here with no college degree and go make a ton of money if things go well and be in a meritocracy, or I can say I tried it, realize I don't want to be anywhere near a sales floor ever in my entire life, and I get clarity on what I do and don't want to do. Part of what trying things does is it helps you understand what you don't want to go do. And when you figure that out, you get more clarity on, okay, maybe I want to do this. And to your point as well, like, I worked for, my first job was in a super small tech startup, right? 30 employees, beanbags, CEO. I get to go live in his office every day. And he had his first big exit at like 27. I think he's now, low 50s. And, probably close to an 8-figure exit, give or take. And he's like tried to go retire at 27, 28 years old. And he was just pacing around the house. And I know him and his wife well, like really close to them still. And Jen was like, hey, Sean, if you don't go do something, I'm going to kill you. Like, you are pacing around this house just antsy and agitated. And some people, regardless of the financial status, like, you need to go do something to go scratch the itch.
Well, otherwise you're also just going to go, mentally down a hill. Like, exercise your brain like you exercise your body. And I think that's a critical, I mean, myself as well. Like, I had my exit. My wife was like, hey, it's lovely to have you around the house. But also, have you thought about moving out? Because I'd like some fucking space. Right. And so, I think, whether it's the sales thing, whether it's these things, it's how you buy a house. How do you know what house to buy? Well, you find out what you don't like. I don't like those barn doors. I don't like these windows. It's exactly the same in kind of a process of elimination. Sometimes doing the bad or doing some of the things you don't like gets you closer to the good, but it also helps your brain think. I mean, that's what it is to be a founder. Just constantly be thinking, critically thinking, iterating in your head with the capability that when luck crosses over your way, you are aware enough to be able to grab it, because every single founder who's had any success can attribute it to a moment of luck. Fact, whether the luck was the market, a person, a thing, falling into a manhole, whatever it is, there's always a freak event, right? Which is why you can't copy unicorn makers, because there is always a freak event that created that opportunity for scale.
So when you sold the company, at home way more now, what weird hobbies did you pick up to try and go fill your time?
Don't fucking start, Sam. I pretty much own REI at this point. Like, I'm sure that I'm a major. I mean, thank God it's a fucking co-op. So I've got 2 young kids, and it was COVID, and so we couldn't kind of go out and about to vacations. So we started camping, and my kids started climbing. And now I've got a 5-year-old, 6-year-old kid who's like climbing like outdoors, like a Joshua tree, like 60 feet up. And I'm like this weird dance dad at the bottom who's holding ropes and like doing knots and like walking around with equipment. And so if you were to ask me what has happened to my life, well, it's got progressively more downhill in terms of how active I am in doing things. I'm at the climbing gym twice a week with a 6-year-old. I'm always trucking out. We're driving to Utah next week to go out in the snow. So the change that it's made is like all these things I never expected anything that I enjoyed. I thought I was just going to sit around and pot around, but it's actually, I'm an active dad, like a truly active dad. And sometimes I like it. Sometimes, by the way, just to be clear, sometimes I don't love it. Sometimes I'm like, forgot I had kids. It'd be great if they could just, but in general, I do enjoy like kind of actually being present and active and having the capability to say yes to stuff and to do things. So yeah, Josh, my big answer to that is like, I've got the whole of REI in my garage, all of it.
There you go. It's funny too, just seeing people and, if you're that person who's a founder in some way, or you like building things and you have a down period, like you'll try and just find things to go get good at in a certain way, not even business related, right? Whether it be like an activity, whether it be learning something, like you need to go be scratch the niche in some way. And yours is now climbing things.
But I don't know if it's by choice. I feel like I answered that question. I think the other thing is my relationship to money, Sam, has been really important, right? I was a wannabe for so many years. I want to be an exited founder. I want to be a founder that's done this. I want to have financial security. I want to own my house. I want to do these things. I want to be, right? And you're trying to manifest it. You're trying to talk about it. And it's okay. You're doing everything you can, good and bad, right, to make it happen. And then you're like, actually, these are the things that make me fundamentally happy. And it's taken me 40 something years to work that out. And that's the gift that I got, is what makes me smile. You know what makes me smile? Coming to a call and wanting to be on it. That's it. Coming, and whether it's with you or someone else, it's the choice. That's what I have. The freedom to be like, you know what? I could have probably wrapped this call up 20 minutes ago with you, Sam, like you could have with me. I'm sure you've had shitty guests that you've been like, well, it's been great having you, right? We made the choice to continue. And I think that is what kind of confidence and understanding who you are kind of gives you a little bit.
Dude, that's a great way of measuring just the quality of life of, I left my corporate job 2.5 years ago or so. And how I thought about it was, if I can go drastically reduce the calls on my calendar, I don't look at it like, oh, right? Like those were calls with finance to go fight about our sales commissions, product for things they didn't build, we had to go sell, the CS team for yelling at us for selling shitty deals, right? Like all these things were on my calendar every week that just took energy from you. And if you look at it as like, how often can I, be on a call and be super excited about it, enjoy what I'm doing, right? Like that's a great measure of just success, is just how much time do you spend doing things you enjoy doing? How much time do you spend doing things that you're truly building towards something, right? To get to a place of enjoyment more or accomplish something. And then how many times are you spending on things that you just absolutely dread? Ideally, you want to keep pushing towards bucket 1 and 2.
Right. 100%.
But cool. But hey, before we wrap here, what kind of final advice do you have for the founder who's looking to go, founder who just needs a kick in the butt to get moving, right? Like what advice do you have for that person?
Good luck, right? Everyone is fucking behind you. Do the hard work of hard work. Like I'm trying to think of something intelligent to say here that like really resonates. Could be in the quotes next to my photo on the podcast. But really, right? Like this is my magic moment, right? This is my moment. But it's not. It's just remember, the fastest team to learn wins. That's it. The fastest team to iterate, to execute, to go through the OODA loop. It's not the smartest, it's not the richest, it's not the biggest network. It's the fastest team or individual to learn wins. The faster you learn. So if you're not learning, there's no way that you're going to outpace your competition. So I think it's, map out 5 things you're going to do tomorrow and just fucking do them and stop fucking talking about it. And no one gives a fuck about your hoodie. Just go in your basement, be a secret, and just do the work, right? Like the amount of founders that just don't want to do the work, and that's okay too. And most of all, get out there, get in traffic. You've got to get hit again and again and again. That's my final unquotable thoughts.
Dude, get yourself out there. I like it. James, been fun.
Thanks so much, Sam.
Yeah,
have a great one.
Thanks for tuning in to the Fully Funded Show. If you enjoyed today's insights, hit follow, share with your investing pals, and drop us a review. Connect with us on social media for bonus content. Your success is our mission. Keep those funds flowing. See you next time.